All right, so one of the questions that I've gotten several times now is regarding the tubeless tires on the 2023 KTM 390 Adventure. People keep asking me over and over again, are the tires actually tubeless? And unfortunately, I have to say no. I'm very glad the question was asked of me because I did pack a tubeless tire repair kit, and I have since switched it out. If we look down at the wheel, we look up in there, let's see that? That is a tubed valve stem right there. And yes, both the nuts on the front and the rear were loose. Now typically they're going to have two nuts on them. They should have two nuts on them, and the second one goes right here on top of it. It's a jam nut that locks this nut on. So these have tubes in them. The tires are actual tubeless tires, but they run a tube in them because they're on a spoked wheel. If you have a bike with tubeless, actual genuine tubeless tires on a spoked wheel, it's typically going to be on a high-end bike. It's going to be an expensive bike. And typically the tubes aren't, or excuse me, typically the spokes are not going to be running like this to the center of the rim. Another downside to this is that if you do run a tube, typically there are going to be rim locks on the tire. And I do not see any rim locks at all, which means that if I'm getting really good traction at the tire and I gun the throttle, I don't want the tire to be able to slip on the rim. And that's what the rim locks are for, is they hold the tire in place because they know that if the tire slips, it's going to drag the tube with it, and it runs the risk of either breaching the stem or breaking the stem and starting to leak inside in the tube. I'm actually pretty disappointed about this, and I feel a little stupid because when I was down at the dealership looking at this bike brand new, I know better. I should have checked a bit closer. And I honestly didn't even realize it until people started asking me over and over and over again about it. Asking me, are they actual tubeless tires? And my answer would be yes. Yeah, well, technically, yeah, the tires are tubeless. You can put this on a mag wheel and it'll seat up just fine, and it's tubeless. Unfortunately, KTM decided to put the same tires on the spoked rims that they put on the mag rims. I understand why they did that. It's all about production costs. So I get it, I understand it. I'm not dumb. Now, the next question is that a deal breaker for me? And the answer is no. And the reason it's not is because I did buy this bike to be a dual sport bike. I do intend to run it off-road substantially. And all of my motorcycles that I run on and off-road have tubes in their tires. It's just the way it is. Most dirt bikes or most off-road capable bikes are going to have tubes in their tires. We need the flex of the spokes. We want the spokes to be able to flex. If you have a mag wheel and you take a hard impact from the front on a mag wheel, it doesn't really flex. It tends to bend. And if it bends, it's permanently deformed. But with spokes, they can bend, or they can compress and then bounce back. But on a mag wheel, they don't really compress and bounce back. So you're stuck with a deformed tire and a deformed rim, deformed structure altogether. If you look, and this is on my Triumph has mag wheels, and you look at that valve stem. It's completely different. I mean, it's totally different. The mounting of it is completely different. Everything about it is completely different. But this is a bike that's dedicated to run on the road. They're not expecting it to be, you know, jumping off of boulders and running up hard terrain or anything else like that. So they can do a 100% fully authentic tubeless wheel. I'm not going to lie to you, I am pretty disappointed in this part, but I've got a lot of history with motorcycles, and I should have known better. I should have checked closer. It's still, again, it's not a deal breaker. For me, it's not a deal breaker. Because I know when I'm running off-road that, you get flats. It happens. When I have my tires installed on my dual sport bikes, I have heavy duty tubes put in my tires. Heavy duty. I don't want to have to mess around with those. But that being said, I'm really actually very grateful that the question was asked of me, because the kit that I had on the bike originally for tire repair was a tubeless kit, and now that makes there's no point in that. I'm just going to carry a tube repair kit. I always carry a micro compressor anyway with me. And on the next big ride I'm going on, my brother's bike is also fitted with tube type tires. So it'll make it a little bit easier, because we only have to carry one repair kit, one micro compressor, and it'll fit both bikes. It'll work to fix both bikes. The only addition I'm going to have to add is my tire irons to my toolkit, and that's about it. And yes, tubeless tires are more of a pain in the ass to get off of your rims, but apples and oranges. I've had difficulty with both types, tubeless type and tube type tires. So it just depends on the level of frustration you're willing to endure. Otherwise, everything else about it has been pretty great. And yes, the front stem was also loose. The front valve stem, as we look up in here, right on there, look at that. That nut is completely loose. I can back it off by hand. In fact, a minute ago they were both all the way down there, and you can even see a little bit of deflection in that stem. You can see it right there. It's not locked into place like it should be. So I'm glad the question was asked of me, because now it's given me something else that I know I've definitely got to prep for, because I will be doing about 1,000 miles off-road. So for that, I say thank you. Thank you for asking me that question. It was asked many times, and I'm grateful that it was, because the first few times it was asked, I just blew it off. And after about the 6th time, I started to think, there might be something to this. I am a little disappointed in the fact that they do try to market it as a tubeless tire bike. Even if I look in my owner's manual, you can download the owner's manual for this motorcycle. It says nothing about that. It doesn't say anything about that. So buyer beware. If you are going to pick it up, keep that in mind. And hopefully it's not going to be a deal breaker for you. It's not a deal breaker for me. Really, it's really not. It might be a little minor inconvenience in the fact that I got to carry a different kit now, and I got to brace myself for a different type of repair. But I've done tons of different repairs on the trail. So otherwise, hope you're all doing well. Keep the helmet side up. Until next time.